Hey, it's Amy Shaw here. It is October 27th, 2016. It's been a couple weeks. Been a rough couple weeks for me, actually. I've kind of been feeling like I'm walking around in a minefield. Maybe not so much really that, but it's just been rough. We've been having to balance and center and do a lot of work, which has kind of taken us away from the camera for a little while. But today I want to talk about shamans at the breakfast table. Before I do that, I did it's October, Halloween, Samhain's just around the corner, and I am not a Wiccan, not a pagan, but because witch is a popular theme for Halloween, the theme for this month's soul collage was centered around the various archetypes found in Halloween, witches, ghosts, goblins, that type of thing. And because I was personally called a witch, not as in bitch, but as in witch, I thought, you know what? I'm going to pick the witch archetype and I'm just going to own that shit. So I actually had one card evolve into 3 separate cards. I very rarely make 3 cards around a single archetype, but I did this month. So this was my little project this month, these 3 additional cards to my Oracle deck. For this month of October. This one's called Witchy Woman. The plastic cover kind of reflects off there. And this one is called Queen of Witches. And again, gosh, the plastic's kind of like covering off, but I just want to share these with you. And this one's called Transmutation of Poisonous Fruits. I kind of almost think this one's my favorite. But yeah, so there was my 3 soul collage cards to add to my deck this month. So happy to share those with you. So today I want to talk about being a shaman at the breakfast table. What this term means, where it actually came from for me, is from Robert Moss. As I've shared before, I'm actually on my 4th class with Robert Moss right now, in his circle of students. All of it's been dream work based stuff. And I've learned a lot. Prior to becoming a student under Robert, I was involved in a local dream group. We would get together and all share our dreams and sort of reflect and offer insight and wisdom to one another in a process. Now, at that level, the primary focus was very psychological. So I was taught that dreams are a created reality from our own psyche, and as the dream weavers, as the creators of our dreams, we are projecting out aspects of ourselves into all the aspects of the dreams. So all dream interpretation before I became a student of Robert's was sort of undertaken from that perspective, a very psychological and self-oriented perspective. I've done dream work, I feel like, pretty much my entire life. Even as a child, I really had an intuitive sense of my own dreams and what they meant psychologically. And when people would just share dreams with me, I also, even if I didn't verbally give an interpretation, within myself I was processing it and doing some level of interpretation. But again, it was very psyche-based. And one of the things that being a student of Robert's really helped me to understand is a more shamanic point of view of dream work. And when I say shamanic, I think what makes that fundamentally different than, say, just solely Jungian or Freudian dream interpretation. It's very this equals that. So in other words, in that framework, you would go to a book and, oh, I dream of snakes, it means this. Oh, I dream of losing my teeth, it means this. Oh, I dream of, so it's a very equal. And in a shamanic viewpoint, anything is possible. So there's many various levels of dream interpretation that can occur, from the physical to the psychological to the metaphysical to the spiritual. And psychic dreams themselves equally is not always a 4 and a 4. So if you have a psychic dream, it may not necessarily be precise. It may require some degree of interpretation, if you will, just because that's the way that we're communicated to. And First, I want to say that a lot of people, especially in Western culture, we're taught that the dream is just the dream. And so we're taught to have this very distinct separation between what's real and what's just a dream. So a lot of people, when they wake up in the morning and they just think, oh, I had a dream, cool, it's a human thing to do, everybody dreams, it doesn't really mean anything, it's not really real. Well, when we do that, we're actually cutting ourselves off from our power and our own source of intuitive information and knowing. A lot can happen in dream work. I just invite you, if you're new to dream work, start off by working with intention. So before you go to bed at night, if you have a certain intention, you want an answer to a certain issue, or you want to understand something better, or maybe you even want to visit a deceased loved one, or rendezvous with somebody in the dream time who's still living, set an intention and even communicate it with that person that, hey, let's set an intention tonight, let's meet together in dream time. And you do that before you go to bed. You just lay down and, mentally prepare your space for that and say, this is my intention, and just keep doing it. Eventually you'll start to see the fruits of that. Another really important thing about dream work is that you have to record it. I know it's the kind of more laborious aspect of doing dream work is the recording. It can be difficult in this day and age where we're constantly going and we don't have a lot of time. What I do if I don't have time to sit down and type it out or write it out is I just use my voice recorder on my phone and I speak it into the phone. So at least I have the details there, and at a later time I can come back and try to sketch it out. In the very immediate, even just one or two words sometimes can jolt your memory. If you don't do it immediately upon waking, you're probably going to forget the details. So get as much detail as you can, as quickly as you can after waking up, and start recording that. When you start recording, it's just one of many ways that you begin to honor the dream space. And the more that you honor it, the more dreams will come to you and the more you will start to remember them. One of the most important things about dream work I have found in my experience, and it's something that I feel being a student at Roberts and hearing him use terms like shaman at the breakfast table, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But one of the things that I found that's really lacking in understanding dream work is that it truly is a practice. And it's like learning a language. When you're an infant, you start to make sounds, in your mouth. And eventually these become vowels, and eventually they become consonants, and eventually they become short words, and then longer words, and then sentences. It's a process of learning and acquiring language. Well, doing dream work is a language. It's a dream language, and each language is unique to each person. So my dream language isn't necessarily going to be your dream language. So it's a process of like starting out as an infant and learning the language of your own dreamscape. And it takes work, it takes practice, it takes dedication. And so it's not something, when somebody says, oh, be a shaman at the breakfast table, it's not something that you're going to get the first time you sit down and share a dream. So now the term shaman at the breakfast table, when Robert uses that term, which I think that he's such a wise man, so much experience and insight and wisdom and years. And I think, it reminds me of Wanda Birch's book, She Who Dreams. She talks about being a child and growing up in a family where they talked about dreams. First thing when they woke up, they would eat breakfast together and share their dreams, the mom and the grandmother. And I think that's an aspect of the term of what it means to be a shaman at the breakfast table. Certainly we see a lot of examples even in the Bible, for instance, of dreams and the power of dreams. Joseph was known as the great dream interpreter, right? I mean, that's how he fell into favor with Pharaoh, moving up the ranks, so to speak, from being sold as a slave to actually being in Pharaoh's court, because he was a dream interpreter. And so because of Joseph's ability to interpret dreams, and again, there's a perfect example of how a psychic dream is not always 4 equals 4, because the many dreams that Joseph interpreted that actually helped Pharaoh to store up the food, to have a surplus during the time of famine, they weren't like literal dreams. It was an interpretation process that Joseph actually engaged in transmuting the dreams from being, these sort of esoteric or hidden messages into the literal message, and then he passed that on to Pharaoh and instructed him, on how to proceed based on the dreams, which actually saved Egypt's ass, during a time, and put Joseph in even more favor. So using dreams to understand what's happening in the environment, in the community, is something that's happened for thousands of years and is recorded, like I said, even in the Bible. So the point is, I'm not trying to say the Bible is an authority or anything like that. I'm trying to point out that this isn't witchcraft. This isn't something that's forbidden or esoteric or evil or bad or wrong. I mean, it's something that societies and cultures have been using for thousands of years to gather information, to understand what that they need to do as communities, as individuals, to protect themselves or to make the best choices for their own welfare and continued survival. Harriet Tubman, the Department of Treasury announced in the spring of this year that Harriet Tubman was going to be honored as the new face of the $20 bill. Harriet Tubman is an African-American woman who, during the time of slavery, helped to free about 70 or so of her close friends, relatives, and slaves out of the slave trade in a sort of underground railroad situation that she set up. The interesting thing about Harriet Tubman is she comes from the Ashanti African tradition, which is a very shamanic, dream-based tradition, but it wasn't until Harriet actually hit her head. She had a severe head injury that later caused her seizures, and she began having very vivid psychic dreams, and she literally used her dreams to help free these people in this underground railroad system. So her dreams became like a map for her, telling her where to go and which step to take and who to count and rely on. So she became very accustomed to using her dreams and to depending on her dreams to do some amazing, fabulous work. So it's one way that dreams do speak to us. I myself, like I said, it's been a really, really rough few weeks. And I found that definitely my dreams have been providing sort of a roadmap for me and showing me where to step and where not to step. And so, but I've been doing dream work for years. And so I understand, starting out from that sort of babbling stage, that it's a process that takes a very long time and dedication to get to. But what Robert, when he says be a shaman at the breakfast table, that's what he really means. And literally in my household, we do very often share dreams amongst each other. Mostly dreams are shared with me. Sometimes I share dreams with others, but they don't yet quite have the language, so they just kind of listen to the dreams and they don't have a lot to offer in terms of insight or feedback about it. I'm a little bit more versed and skilled in that way, so I find that everybody wants to give me their dreams, which I appreciate because, for example, last week my husband woke up and right away he had 2 dreams he wanted to share with me. In the first 2 sentences of the first dream, I knew instantly that that was my dream. He had dreamed a dream for me. So the idea, the concept of being a shaman at the breakfast table, I think is really compelling, and it's what I want to really share and offer today of why dream work is so important, because it does evolve beyond just being like our own psychological expression. Dreams are meant to communicate in a community setting. In shamanic indigenous cultures, the tribe would often sit around the fires and actually literally act out their dreams in a story time way. And, there would be a lot of laughter, there would be a lot of contemplation, and the community together would decide, is this a community dream meant for the entire tribe? Is there a particular person in the tribe that the dream was meant for? And so there was a collaborative collaborative agreement and effort made about all the dream work and how it was shared openly and in a flowing way. And so, yeah, we are at that stage in my household where we're all sharing dreams. And you know, it's interesting, about a month ago, we kind of tag teamed sharing aspects of a dream. So my son shared a dream involving characters, strange characters, and then my husband also had another aspect of the dream. It was the same, we believe, the same characters, just a slightly different aspect. And then that was followed up by myself also experiencing these characters in dream time in a just slightly different aspect. So together, because we were communicating our dreams, we were able to put together like a big picture, a bigger picture, or understanding of the actual landscape of the dream itself, and how each piece fit together in a way that communicated a message to each of us on a different level of where we were at. So this kind of work is possible. I've had lots and lots of information come to me through dreams, again, of various levels and for various purposes. And I've just really come to rely on my dream time as an important aspect of my practice, of my way of knowing. Another thing I just want to say really quick is that even, you know, we have our hard industrial sleep followed by, you know, the traditional REM sleep. But there's also the time before, the liminal spaces before and after we're waking up. So, you know, as we're falling asleep, it's hypnagogy. As we're waking up, it tends to be called hypnopompia. And it's that lucid state in between where we're not quite awake, we're not quite asleep. For me, that's the most luscious time. I love it. I try to hang out in that space as long as possible. Because I feel like the most remembered information comes through at that time. I'm the most alert and curious to it. So my mind, I'm not still in that heavy kind of stupor of sleep. I'm much more consciously aware of what's coming through and can kind of grab onto it and interact with it more, and remember it more. So it's my very favorite time. And I just encourage you to explore those states. One of the things that you can do technique-wise is, if you get up to use the bathroom at night, just kind of lay around after, or even when you wake up in the morning. Be a little bit lazy. Don't jump right out, you know. Maybe set 2 alarms. You know, set 1 alarm an hour before the actual time that you want to get up. That way you can kind of allow your body to fall slightly back asleep and be in that not fully asleep, but a more liminal sort of state. That's one thing. Another thing I want to say is certain medications can alter your dreams. They can make you have more dreams, more vivid dreams, or make you not dream at all. If you are an avid or regular marijuana user, you're not likely to be having a lot of dreams because THC does inhibit dreams. What else can I say about that? Another thing I think that really helps promote dream time is doing a lot of altered consciousness in your waking time. So whether that's through a meditative practice or shamanic journeying, whatever that you do to get into an altered, more lucid consciousness, the more that you practice that in waking time, the more you're going to see the benefit of that spill over into your dream time. The more you can train your brain to be more lucid and enjoy those liminal states of hypnopompia and hypnagogia. So that's another aspect of it. To me, I just see dreams as an integral part of shamanic practice. It's just another way of knowing, and part of learning the dream language is not just starting out and allowing yourself to start discussing the dreams, because at first it's awkward. You're like, everybody's telling each other your dreams and you're like, okay, that's weird, right? That's a weird dream. I don't know what to make of it. But you do have an intuitive sense, even if it is just a psychological interpretation, and that can also be a place to even just start, is seeing each aspect of the dream, the color of the room, the type of car, whatever it is, to see each aspect of that as a part of yourself. I mean, it's a place to start. And then from that point, you just start, it's like babbling, blah, blah, blah. You will develop the language as you keep working with it, and don't give up. But another part of that is also learning how to read signs. So, in a shamanic mindset, the world communicates around us all the time. And so the dream becomes just an extension of that same type and form of communication. So when you start opening your eyes and becoming aware of everything as potentially a sign, literally a street sign, at the exact moment that you're thinking something, or the exact moment you're asking a question, I wonder about this, and there's a billboard, there's your answer. And, we're trained in our culture, this Western culture, to just think of everything as, oh, that's just a coincidence, and to dismiss it. But in a shamanic worldview, there's no such thing as coincidence, and everything's a possibility. So when you open yourself up and you be open, you begin to sort of learn the language that you speak and that the universe communicates to you through. And so when you do that enough, and you begin to work with the dreams and honor the dreams in such a way, it becomes very distinct over time which dream is a message for you, which dream is a message for somebody else, which dream is a community message, which dream is a foretelling of something that's going to happen, which dream is traveling to another time and place to experience something through somebody else's. I mean, all these factors, you begin to distinguish all the little signs within the dream. And also outside in the 3D environment that you're living in, and the signs that come. So yeah, it's definitely a practice, and I'm just here to encourage everybody to become shamans at the breakfast table. Start somewhere, and be open to hearing other people's dreams and also sharing your own, and to the idea that you may dream a dream for somebody else. This definitely is an important part of shamanic society. And I just want to encourage you, as in the case with Harriet Tubman, that this can have real life consequence for your life personally. I mean, I could sit here all day long and tell you story after story after story. Well, I mean, even the book Wanda Birch, She Who Dreams, is the story of how she cured her cancer through dream. So, I mean, there's so many examples of people who had dreams and had a real life effect on their 3D experience, their in the flesh experience. So start somewhere, and that's what I'm here to encourage you. Start somewhere, and if you have questions, feel free to ask me. If you have insights or anything you want to offer, feel free to offer that as well. All right, have a great day, and I will be seeing you guys soon.